Well, hey everyone, and welcome back to Tactical Review. So today, we are going to unbox my newest acquisition, the AKV from Palmetto State Armory. We're going to take a look at what's in the box. We're going to talk a little bit about the AKV compared to a few of its other similar competitors. I'm going to talk about why I chose the AKV. Not all of it is just because I'm poor. And then we're going to take advantage of this gorgeous day, and we are going to get out to the range and take some first shots with it. So let me rearrange a camera and take a look at what's in the box. So just give me a moment. All right, so just like with all Palmetto State Armory purchases that I have made, that is a couple of build kits and a couple now complete firearms. I wouldn't say a nondescript box. It's absolutely obvious where it's from, but just a very nice padded cardboard box. Honestly, doesn't look a lot different than what maybe a Wasser would come in. Inside, we have the pistol. The vast majority of the Palmetto State AKVs are pistol SKUs. I do seem to recall seeing one rifle SKU on the website, but I did not see that available for sale. Of course, these things are very difficult to come by. If you have been out of the loop, you're new to firearms, welcome. If you're not familiar with this platform, and you are a gun guy, I guess, welcome back from under the rock you've been living under. There's a lot that's happened, including some major sports figure deaths, some world leader deaths. We're in the middle of a pretty terrible pandemic, so I suppose this is all a big shock for you. Anyway, I would call this Palmetto State Armory's pseudo Vitez, or their homage to the Vitez. And there's purists out there who are cringing and gathering torches and pitchforks for me even mentioning this in the same breath as the Vitez. Anyway, no, let's continue on. In the box, we have the firearm. We have a bag containing our magazine, the owner's manual, and a cable lock required by law. We also have a shipping label that I will not be showing you the other side. And if you are very lucky, a sticker, maybe more than one sticker. That's always kind of crapshoot. And a desk kit bag. Do not eat. This is not food seasoning. Okay, so manual, just black and white, single fold paper. You can go through this. We're going to go through this a little bit here today. By and large, though, if you are familiar with the AK platform, you will get along with this weapon just fine. And so, let's actually go through the firearm itself. In the spirit of better YouTubers than myself, we are actually going to go tip to butt. We will do that. You can see that the chamber flag is still installed, so you know that there is no round in the chamber. And let's get going. So at the front, we do have this 2-port muzzle brake slash compensator, very similar to the fighter brake that I have on my full-size AK. This will definitely help to tame the massive recoil from the 9x19 cartridge. Now, in all seriousness, this should make this a very pleasant shooter, make the weapon very drivable. Straight back, we do see that it has a keeper detent or an index spring, very similar to a standard AK. It is chamber or threaded in 1/2x28, and you will see that as opposed to the Kalashnikov USA KP9, which is more of a true Vitez or Vitez clone, that this pin is offset. There's a shoulder back here that if you want to use standard 1/2x28 muzzle devices with a crush washer or some such, you can do that. For the time being, I am going to stick to this muzzle brake. If that changes down the future, we'll talk about that and why. Moving back from there, we have our sort of AK-74 style front sight block. In this weapon, this is not a gas port or gas block, because this is a direct blowback operated weapon. Moving on back from there, we do utilize standard AKM furniture. Ideally, I would have liked to have the same aluminum handguard that my AK has, but these things go in and out of stock very quickly, and so when I saw a SKU that was otherwise what I was personally looking for, but had the MOE handguard, I decided to give this a go. If I don't like it, I'll change it later. It is polymer, has heat shields in it, and has M-LOK at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions with kind of a plastic pseudo cheese grater on the top. Moving on back, we have our rear sight block / front trunnion. This is captive on the AKV as well as the Vitez, but on the AKV it hinges up here where the rear leaf would hinge, and then has a fixed kind of notch style, similar sight picture to what you would get with a standard AK rear sight, but of course it does not adjust for elevation or for ranging. This is a secured dust cover with an integrated Picatinny rail. Being secured like that should allow it, and from all of the reviews that I have read, does allow it to readily return to zero. Moving kind of down, now that we are at this point, we will pop the dust cover. A little stiff with the chamber flag in there, and inside, one thing you're going to notice that the AKV has, that the KP9 and possibly the Draco NAC9 and Wasser M, can't speak to those. Anyway, it does have these dual buffers in here. One thing I will say is that on the KP9, it has an additional rear metal buffer, but instead of being external to the recoil assembly like that, it actually has an extended rear button assembly. It's not extended as far, and it does definitely lack this rubber buffer. The reason for that is, if you go back or for this whole assembly, if you go back and watch Military Arms Channel's videos on his Gen 1 AKV, he had some serious issues with the bolt traveling too far to the rear and allowing cartridges, and both spent and unfired, into his fire control group. Our bolt / bolt carrier has what looks like a pseudo gas ring on, or gas piston on here. It is not. Once again, this front tail section is just additional mass because this is a direct blowback. It has an integrated bolt and a spring-loaded firing pin kept therein. On inside the receiver, fairly standard for AK. Obviously, the shark fin is much further forward because it's a much smaller cartridge. Right here, you will see what has been dubbed very lovingly as the Mac bracket. This was retrofitted into the kind of Gen 2, if you will, and all Gen 1s that were returned for warranty issues for cartridges getting down into the fire control group. Once again, named based on Military Arms Channel's testing. This particular SKU did come with the enhanced safety lever, similar to the one that I have on my big AK, which I ordered from AK Operators Union. It just allows you to actuate the safety with your index finger. Obviously, it works better when the weapon is assembled. Further on down, I went with a SKU that came with the Alg Trigger already installed. There are some modifications made to the Alg Trigger specific to the AKV. If you are purchasing an Alg for your AKV from Palmetto State Armory, their Alg triggers are all already modified for the AKV. I don't know what that modification is if you purchase your Alg trigger elsewhere and want to put it into your AKV. Put that back together and assembles just like any other AK. Line that knot piston, line that guide rod / weight up with your guide tube in this case. Run that forward, recoil spring into the back of that knot piston, push forward, line up into your rear trunnion, and close your top cover. Okay, moving on down. One of the main draws for me with the AKV is the fact that it uses the double stack, double feed Scorpion style magazines. One thing with Palmetto State's magazines, as opposed to at least the original Scorpion magazines, is that they do have metal reinforcing on the feed lips. They are 35 round magazines, and otherwise very similar to an AK, except that of course it does not rock and lock. It is straight insert and catches right there. Alright, still a paddle release back here. There are aftermarket units that come back and allow you to push with your trigger finger. However, you notice the little push up right there. One very cool thing with the AKV is that it has a true last round bolt hold open. And to drop the bolt, there is a release right here on the other side of the magwell, and it can, I don't know if I'll be able to do this for camera, if you hold up on that and run your bolt back, it will hold the bolt open. Major draw for me in combination with the magazines. So let's talk a little bit about these magazines. Honestly, when comparing the AKV to other 9mm platform AKs, which really puts us with the NAC-9, the Wasser M, and the Kalashnikov USA KP9, costs between all of those are within just a little bit of money. I'm going to say a few $100s just off of the cuff. As you start getting closer to a $1,000 firearm, honestly, $100 to $150 in any direction isn't terrible. Now, NAC-9 fans are going to be screaming right now that we're talking at almost twice the money. But by the time you do any kind of pistol brace attachment, by the time you replace the plastic magwell, at least plastic on the one I saw, with an aluminum unit, etc., that price gap really starts closing, and then the KP9 is a few $100s more. But then let's talk magazines. The AKV uses double stack, double feed Scorpion magazines, 35 rounds and a slight forward slope. The Kalashnikov KP9 or Kalashnikov USA KP9 uses similar in appearance magazines. They are, however, proprietary. And then the various Century Arms offerings all use Glock magazines. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, for one thing, looks. Right? I realize that how a firearm looks is very subjective and certainly at least secondary, maybe even tertiary or further down to functionality. Anyway, these subguns that use a Glock magazine, they don't look right to me, and they remind me of something else. And if it comes to me, I'll let you guys know. The thing is, though, is that the 9mm cartridge is ever so slightly tapered. Now, obviously, it's not tapered to the extent of the 7.62x3.9 cartridge, which is why we have a slight curvature like this, as opposed to excessive curvature like this. That said, that taper is enough to start being noticeable as far as feed geometry the more rounds you have. It's tolerance stacking, and it's well beyond the auspices of this video. Regardless to say, and you can go back and you can look at research that H&K did with the MP5, their original magazines were straight. It caused feeding issues. They switched to curved magazines, and those issues went away. So I intentionally wanted something with curved magazines. All right, now finally, let's talk magazine cost. Because once again, I did not choose the Palmetto State firearm simply because I'm poor, but admittedly that was a consideration. So let's start with the offerings that utilize Glock magazines. I will personally only purchase OEM Glock magazines. Your mileage may vary, but all of the reviews that I have read for all other non-OEM brands of Glock magazines, whether they come from Vietnam or one of the several American-made offerings, are mixed at best and terrible at worst. And I'm just not a fan of range-only magazines. I've ended up with a few for my AR-15 that I would consider range-only, but even there, by and large, I stick to proven brands. PMags, and if I purchase metal mags, they will be either OK Industries or D&H. So, Glock magazines. For standard carry capacity in all of the free United States, 15 to 17 rounds, whether you're buying Glock 17 or Glock 19 magazines, depending on time and demand and sales and retailer, $15 to $22 a piece. And I try to stay in the like $15 to $17 range shipped. You've got to work to do that, but it's possible. 33 round Glock OEM fun sticks, you are looking at $30 to $40 a piece. Again, I understand that there are other manufacturers. If you've had great luck, good for you. I want this to end up in a home defense, self-defense, reliability type role. Obviously, tests pending for that. But that means that I am limiting myself to Glock OEM magazines. And in a pattern like this, I want that higher capacity, that 30 plus round range. So that's putting me at the $30 to $40 a magazine range. Kalashnikov USA KP9. I've done some looking at magazines, and those are all around the $40 range. Palmetto State AKV magazines. Unless you're doing one of their limited run like Nanner mags, whether you get the opaque or the translucent magazines, they tend to be right around $14 a piece. So for magazine cost for reliable magazines, the Palmetto State Armory AKV wins. One word, if I haven't mentioned it, I'm forgetful, and I've been recording for a few minutes now, so I'm doing good to remember my own name. Scorpion mags do fit in the AKV. I've read mixed results about feed reliability of CZ mags in the AKV. I've seen some pictures online, and evidently feed lips are a little longer on the AKV. I've also read, though, that there are some potential feed issues with flatter nosed bullets, such as some of your range or your full metal jacket ammunition. Some of those have a flat nose on them. Everything that I buy is more of a ball nose. This may cause me some issues with my typical self-defense ammo, which is Spear Gold Dot. It's just what I've always carried. I will be testing that when I go to the range, and if that turns out to be a problem, I will pick up some of the ballistic tipped defensive ammo, such as some of Hornady's offerings, to run through my AKV. It's not a huge cost difference once you start getting into self-defense ammo, and that is a thing. That is a concession I'm willing to make. Okay, I've talked about magazines. Again, I purchased a SKU that came with the Alg Trigger. Moving on back, you can purchase the AKV with either the M4 stock adapter, which obviously I have, with the SBA 3 brace. Also comes with just a bare pick rail for you to use any of your 1913 style braces, or stock if you are going to Form 1 this. They also offer a triangle side folder. I opted away from that because I like the cheek weld of the SBA 3. I do intend on getting a side fold M4 style adapter. That's down the road, and we'll talk about that when I do it. And then moving on back, once again, I've got the SB Tactical SBA 3. They do not currently, in April of 2020, offer a SKU that comes with the SBA 4. If they did, that's what I would have gone for. But SBA 3, SBA 4, that is all personal preference. So, all right. One last thing before we head out to the range with this is we want to take a look at this ALG enhanced AK trigger. Once again, empty chamber. We will do a few trigger pulls, and I can tell you that just from feel, I have not done a pull gauge test yet. My Gen 3 Palmetto State AK-47 feels like it has a light trigger, and this makes that one feel heavy. So, all right. 2¼ pounds. 2½ pounds. 2¾ pounds. Just an incredibly light trigger. Let's see if we can hold this up here. You can see just a little bit of take up, and it just breaks. There's no obvious wall to this. It's just a very smooth trigger. Very smooth trigger. There's a reason that the ALG is one of the most popular aftermarket triggers. Alrighty, well, that's enough with the unboxing stuff. Let's get out to the range, and we'll put a few different brands of ball ammunition through it, and we will give those Spirit Gold Dots a try and see if I have to order some different defensive ammo for the AKV. So we are here out at the range, and we are going to take first shots with the Palmetto State Armory AKV. And now for today, I'm going to do a few things. One, I'm going to test and see if my Spear Gold Dots will in fact feed reliably. And while I'm at that, I'm going to also get a chronograph reading off of those so that I can do some intelligent zeroing on my red dot as far as zero distance, things like that. We've talked about that before. And then I am also going to be feeding it several different types of ammunition just to see if there's anything that chokes it up. So we will be actually starting everything off this afternoon with Federal Black Box, good quality ammunition, runs good and hot, shouldn't give us any problems. After that, we have some Browning 124 grain stuff from Academy Sports. We have some Herders 115 grain from Bass Pro Shop. We have Wolf steel cased ammunition. We've got some Arms Core. And we got some Blazer brass. So we're just going to feed it a variety of different kinds of ball ammunition and just make sure that it wants to play nicely with everything. So here we go. Alrighty, 15 rounds of Federal Black Box. Slide lock back, everything just was beautiful there. The recoil impulse on this is just incredible. That muzzle brake just sends everything back. I feel like as we get doing more with this thing's going to be a laser beam. All right, next we're going to try these Spear Gold Dots. Again, I read some things that said that the AKV doesn't always feed standard hollow points very nicely. So this might not work well. Looks like it went into battery. Let's give it a try. 1406. Click, no bang. Ooh, failure to feed. Let's see if that happens again. Failure to feed properly. So it's really sending these gold dots. That's probably enough to defeat level 3A soft armor. But this issue with wanting to cycle the next round is obviously problematic if you're in a gunfight for your life. All right, and just for comparison's sake, I'm going to send a couple of those gold dots through the chrono from my Glock 19, or I'm going to shoot my chrono. I can neither confirm or deny that that's happened before. 1208, 1235, 1208. About 200 to 250 feet per second faster out of the AKV, but problematic with feeding. I will certainly revisit that with some other ammunition. So if you're watching this and you are already familiar with the AKV and you know of a defensive load that it likes really well, if you will let me know down in the comments, I would certainly appreciate that, because I would like this to be a bump in the night gun, but it has to reliably feed self-defense ammo. All right, up next, Herders comes from Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's. It's a house brand for one of those two companies, and of course they are owned by the same parent company now. Yeah, no problems feeding that. And that stuff's running mid to upper 1300 feet per second. Again, that's a 115 grain pill. 124 grain Browning. low 1300 feet per second. 115 grain Blazer brass, some more just cheap plinking ammo you can pick up about anywhere. Usually, maybe not during the Rona. All right, that's running upper 1200 feet per second range. All right, now we got some cheap 115 grain Wolf steel case stuff. This stuff used to be some of my favorite plinking ammo. Right now, when you can find it, companies are wanting, 18 to 22 cents a round for it. So late April, early May of 2020, I've just been buying brass case because it's running about the same kind of money. That's all been mid to upper 1300 feet per second. Not too shabby for what's usually kind of regarded as cheap and anemic ammunition. All right, and finally, we've got some 115 grain arms core. Once again, just kind of cheap plinking ball ammo. About everything that I've shot up today, I got for 17 to 19 cents a round, with the exception of the Wolf, which I got when you could still get it for about 13 cents a round, which is why I like shooting it so much. All right, and that was all in the upper 1200 range. Only thing that it struggled with all day today was my Spear Gold Dots, which is a little heartbreaking. That was the one thing I really needed it to eat well. All right, guys, we are back out at the range. Before we wrap up this video, for a couple things. One, yesterday when I was at the range, my red dot came in, so I got that mounted last night, and I wanted to get out here and zero it. But two, before I put the Speared Gold Dots completely to bed, I did a little bit of research on the AKV official Facebook group, and none other than Chad Wiley had actually recommended removing the aluminum buffer from the back end of the recoil assembly. And then a couple of other recommendations included spinning the remaining rubber buffer around the other way. So when that's all said and done, the final buffer assembly looks like that. So evidently the aluminum buffer was in there more to shorten the stroke and increase the cyclic rate for competition shooters. Don't know if that's true, but the suggestion is that extra bolt travel, so instead of stopping about right there, it comes on back to there, and that might be enough aggression to go ahead and overcome some slight feeding issues. So we are going to top off a magazine with gold dots, and we're going to see if we can get an entire 35 round magazine to feed without failure. If so, then I might be 5x5 to go ahead and run my normal carry ammo as a home defense load in this. If I have hiccups, then I will go right back to looking for some Hornady critical defense, which from all accounts have a 100% success rate without removing the buffer. So let's get a mag in here and let's see if things work right. All right, here goes. Whoo, doggy. That's a nice jam. Let's see if I can get to where you guys can see in there. Yeah. Unfortunately, it looks like Spear Gold Dot is just a no-go in my particular firearm. And like I said, I've read that these things can be ammo picky. So, yeah, Hornady critical defense is good defensive ammo. It's not like I have to resort to some weird boutique-y stuff or stuff that performs poorly otherwise. Aside from the fact that I have to procure different ammo, I'm not entirely upset about that. All right, well, I'm going to put that aluminum buffer back in then. Yeah, so your mileage may in fact vary. Again, there are people on the Facebook group who claim to run Spear Gold Dot with no problem. So just if you pick up an AKV, know that you may need to do some experimentation to get self-defense ammo that works in your firearm. All right, so even after quite a few mag dumps, near mag dumps, the front sight base, very warm. The front sling attachment, very warm. The mag pull handguard though, nice and cool. So I do like that. You guys can see with this ridiculously light Alg trigger, able to bump fire it like nobody's business. And, you know, I'm a little disappointed that I can't use the hollow point ammunition, the home defense ammunition that I already have. That said, I knew going into this that was a possibility, and all things considered, I'm ecstatic. If a 9mm AK is something you think you want, by all means, I'd say this is worth a look. All the range ammunition fed fine, and I will keep you up to date about self-defense ammunition. We're going to be taking a look at quite a few other things with the AKV in the coming weeks, years, months. Wait, I have that backwards. Weeks, months, years, etc. Appreciate you guys joining me out here today. If you want to help what it is that I do here at Tactical Review directly, you can do that through Patreon. If you would like to help support the channel, but you'd like to get something in return, absolutely feel free to head over to the merchandise store and pick you up some t-shirts. Show everybody that you support your right to keep and bear arms, and at the same time, the channel will get a couple dollars for every shirt purchased. If you're not following the channel over on social media, that would be a great thing to do, and you could do that at that username right there. Early 2020, we are on Facebook and Instagram. As that changes, I will update this segment of all future videos. But anyway, if you haven't already, I'd appreciate a thumbs up on the video. Guys, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you ring that notification bell. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, shoot straight, stay safe.